The skies above Earth darkened as the massive alien ships appeared without warning. Sleek, metallic vessels that stretched for miles across the atmosphere, blocking out the sun in major cities worldwide. Panic erupted globally as communication systems jammed and power grids flickered. In a secret military facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Commander Jack Stone stared at the emergency monitors, his weathered face illuminated by the red warning lights. "They're in position over every major city," reported Lieutenant Bill Davis, his fingers flying across the control panel. "We're counting over 50 ships in total." Jack nodded grimly. "How long until they make contact?" As if answering his question, every screen, device, and communication system on Earth simultaneously displayed the same image, a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Its voice translated into all languages at once. "People of Earth, I am General Drawn of the Vex Dominion. We have observed your planet for some time. Your species has potential, but remains primitive. You have barely left your own atmosphere while we have conquered 1,000 worlds. Surrender now and become part of our empire, or face extinction." The alien's cold confidence sent shivers through the command center. "Sir," whispered Anna Wright, the lead scientist on Jack's team, "they don't know about Project Sunburst." Jack nodded slowly. "And that's our only advantage." In Washington, the president gathered with world leaders in an emergency video conference. The Vex had given Earth 24 hours to surrender. "What are our options?" the president asked, looking directly at Jack through the secure video feed. "They're scanning our conventional weapons, sir," Jack replied. "They see our missiles, our jets, our tanks. They're calculating their superiority based on what they can detect." "And what can't they detect, Commander?" asked the Chinese premier. Jack exchanged glances with Anna. "Project Sunburst, sir. The energy signature is unlike anything they would recognize as a weapon. To them, it just looks like background radiation. 5 years of secret work, hidden from the public and even from satellites that might be observed by other species. 5 years developing technology that worked on principles the Vex couldn't possibly understand, because they had developed along an entirely different technological path." "How long do you need to deploy?" asked the president. 12 hours, sir. We've been preparing for this possibility." A small scout ship from the Vex fleet descended toward the United Nations building in New York. General Drawn himself would meet with human representatives to accept their surrender. As the alien ship touched down, Jack's team worked frantically in facilities around the world, activating nodes of the Sunburst network that had been quietly installed over the past 3 years. "Power levels at 60% and climbing," reported Anna, her face tense with concentration. Jack stared at the main screen, watching the Vex ships hovering above Earth cities, their weapon systems powering up as a demonstration of force. "They think we're primitive," he muttered. "Because we don't build the way they do. Because we haven't spread across the stars." Bill looked up from his station. "Their mistake." In New York, General Drawn stepped from his ship, flanked by guards. His 4 eyes surveyed the humans with obvious disdain. "Have you come to surrender?" he asked the UN Secretary-General. "We've come to talk," she replied steadily. General Drawn laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "There is nothing to discuss. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your technology is centuries behind ours. The only question is whether you join us willingly or we take this planet by force." Back in the mountain facility, Jack received the transmission from New York. "Power at 85%, Anna reported. We need more time." Jack grabbed the secure line to the president. "Sir, we need to stall them. Just a little longer." As the world held its breath, humanity prepared its response to the aliens who had gravely underestimated them. 5 years earlier, Jack Stone had been summoned to a nondescript government building in Virginia. He'd expected another routine assignment, not a meeting that would change the course of human history. "Commander Stone, what I'm about to show you is classified beyond top secret," said General Rob Miller, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were photographs of strange energy readings captured by a deep space telescope. Patterns that shouldn't exist naturally. "We're not alone," Jack said simply. "No. And they're coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but they're coming. That's why we're creating Project Sunburst, and why you're going to lead it." The memory faded as Jack returned to the present crisis. Anna's voice pulled him back to reality. "Power at 92% and holding," she reported. "The system is stabilizing." Jack turned to the communications officer. "Get me Dr. Tom Wilson at the Atlantic node." Tom's face appeared on screen, his lab coat rumpled and eyes tired. "We're operational here, but the power fluctuations are worse than we anticipated. The Vex ships are interfering with our grid. Can you compensate?" Jack asked. Tom nodded grimly. "Yes, but I'll need to manually adjust the resonance chambers. It'll take time. Time they didn't have." Jack checked the countdown clock, 19 hours until the Vex deadline. In New York, General Drawn had returned to his ship after the brief meeting with world leaders. His second-in-command, Officer Krell, approached with a report. "We've detected unusual energy readings from several locations," Krell said. "Nothing that matches weapon signatures we recognize." Drawn dismissed the concern with a wave of his long, gray fingers. "They're primitive attempts at defense. Their satellites show they rely on projectile weapons and crude explosives. Continue the intimidation sequence." Around the world, smaller Vex ships began descending toward military installations, firing precision weapons that destroyed tanks, aircraft, and missile silos with terrifying efficiency. The message was clear: resistance was futile. At the mountain facility, emergency reports flooded in. "They've hit the Air Force Base in Nevada," Bill reported. 30 seconds of firing, everything gone. "Sir," a communications officer called out, "the President is asking for an update." Jack took the call. "Mr. President, we're at 94% and climbing slowly. The Vex attacks are actually helping us, they're revealing the frequencies of their weapon systems. Anna's team is incorporating that data into Sunburst. How many more demonstrations will they conduct before they launch the full invasion?" the President asked. "Unknown, sir. But each one gives us more information." In the lab adjacent to the command center, Anna worked frantically with her team, adjusting equations and recalibrating systems. Sunburst wasn't just a weapon, it was an entirely new approach to physics. The breakthrough came by accident, she had explained to Jack years ago. "We weren't trying to build a weapon. We were studying how to create stable wormholes for space travel. But what we discovered was that certain energy configurations could destabilize the power systems of advanced technology." The project had developed in secret facilities around the world. While humanity publicly focused on conventional space technology, rockets, satellites, Mars missions, Sunburst remained hidden, its true purpose known to only a few hundred people globally. At the Pacific Node, located beneath an unassuming island, Mary Clark made the final adjustments to her portion of the system. "Resonance chambers aligned," she reported to Jack. "Power flow stabilized at this node." One by one, the 7 nodes around the world reported similar status. The Sunburst network was nearly ready. In orbit, General Drawn prepared his next demonstration. A larger attack, targeting multiple cities simultaneously, to break humanity's will. "Begin the second phase," he ordered. As Vex ships positioned themselves over their targets, Jack's team watched tensely. "Power at 98%, Anna reported. "Almost there." Jack's expression remained grim. They were cutting it incredibly close. If the Vex launched their full attack before Sunburst was ready, millions would die. "Just a little longer," he whispered, watching the alien ships on the monitor. Keep underestimating us. Just a little longer. The second wave of Vex attacks left smoking craters where military bases once stood. Major cities experienced precision strikes that demolished key infrastructure while minimizing civilian casualties. It was a calculated display of superior firepower, designed to break human resolve without destroying what the Vex considered valuable resources, the planet and its population. In the United Nations Emergency Chamber, world leaders watched grimly as footage of the devastation played across screens. The Russian president slammed his fist on the table. We cannot sit here doing nothing while they pick us apart. The US president kept his voice steady. We need 18 more hours. Commander Stone assures me that's all the time they need. 18 hours could mean millions dead, argued the British Prime Minister. Jack's face appeared on the main screen. Mr. President, we've detected Vex ships preparing for another demonstration. Larger than before. They're targeting population centers now. A cold silence fell over the chamber. We need to stall them, Jack continued. Request a meeting with General Dron. Tell him Earth is considering terms of surrender. The Secretary General nodded grimly. I'll make contact. On the Vex command ship, General Dron received the human transmission with satisfaction. His tactical officer, Krell, stood nearby. They wish to discuss surrender terms, Dron said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Prepare my shuttle. Krell hesitated. General, our scans continue to detect unusual energy patterns. They don't match known human technology. Dron made a dismissive gesture. Their civilization barely understands atomic energy. Their most advanced computers are primitive compared to our simplest devices. What threat could they possibly pose? The patterns are unfamiliar, Krell persisted. All species make desperate attempts when facing extinction, Dron replied. It changes nothing. As Dron's shuttle descended toward the UN building again, Jack coordinated with the sunburst nodes. Tom, what's your status? He called. Tom's face appeared, streaked with sweat despite the cool underground temperature. The Pacific node is operational. We're routing power through the secondary systems to mask the signature. Mary? Atlantic node green. But we've got a problem, the Vex have destroyed the power station we were drawing from. We're on backup generators now. Jack rubbed his temples. How long will they last? 12 hours at most. It wasn't enough. They needed more time. In New York, General Dron strode confidently into the UN chamber, his tall form dwarfing the human delegates. You wish to discuss terms, he stated without preamble. The Secretary General nodded. We request 48 hours to prepare our people for transition. Dron's upper eyes narrowed. You were given 24 hours. That deadline stands. Our world has many nations, many governments, the Secretary General explained. We need time to reach consensus, to prevent panic among our population. As the negotiations continued in New York, Lieutenant Bill approached Jack with an update. Sir, we've intercepted Vex communications. They're not waiting for their deadline. They're planning a major strike in 6 hours to force immediate surrender. Jack's expression hardened. Where? Everywhere, sir. Simultaneous attacks on all major cities. Anna looked up from her workstation. We're at 99% power, but the system needs 8 hours to fully synchronize. If they attack before then. Jack made a decision. Contact Tom at the Pacific node. Tell him to initiate a partial activation, just enough to disrupt their targeting systems. Sir, a partial activation could alert them to what we're doing, Anna warned. It's a risk we have to take. At the Pacific node, Tom received the orders with a grim nod. Understood, Commander. Initiating partial activation. His fingers danced across the control panel, activating just one part of the vast sunburst network. In orbit, alarms suddenly blared on the Vex ships. Krell rushed to General Drawn's command station. Energy surge detected. Our targeting systems are experiencing interference. On Earth, General Drawn received the urgent message during negotiations. His posture changed subtly, the first indication of concern he had shown. "What is happening?" he demanded into his communication device. "Unknown energy pattern, affecting our precision targeting," came the reply. "We cannot complete the planned strike with accuracy." The Secretary-General noticed Drawn's change in demeanor. "Is something wrong, General?" Drawn's 4 eyes fixed on her with new intensity. "What technology are you deploying against our ships?" "I don't understand," she replied carefully. "We have no technology capable of affecting your vessels. Perhaps it's a natural phenomenon? Our scientists could assist." "Enough games." Drawn snarled. "You have 12 hours to surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy your civilization regardless of targeting precision." As Drawn stormed back to his shuttle, Jack received the update. The partial activation had bought them precious time, but also raised the stakes dramatically. "Now they know something's happening," Anna said quietly. Jack nodded. "But they still don't know what. Let's make sure we're ready before they figure it out." The hours ticked by with merciless speed. Jack paced the command center, stopping occasionally to check status reports from the sunburst nodes. The partial activation had thrown the Vex into confusion, but their response was growing increasingly violent. "Pacific Rim taking heavy bombardment," Bill reported, pointing to the tactical display. "The Vex are targeting population centers near our node locations." "Have they identified the nodes?" Jack asked sharply. "Negative. They're striking in wide patterns, trying to hit everything." Anna approached with a tablet displaying a complex energy diagram. "We've got a problem at the Atlantic node. The power fluctuations are causing instability in the resonance chamber." Jack immediately opened a channel. "Tom, status report." The video feed showed smoke and sparks behind Tom as he worked frantically at his control station. "We're under attack. Not direct hits yet, but close enough. The vibrations are affecting our calibration." "Can you stabilize?" Jack asked. Tom wiped sweat from his brow. "Yes, but I need to manually adjust the quantum resonators. Someone has to go into the chamber." "That's too dangerous," Mary called from off-screen. "The radiation levels." "There's no other way," Tom cut her off. "If this node fails, the entire network will collapse." Jack knew what this meant. The resonance chamber was flooded with exotic particles that would kill anyone inside within minutes. But without the Atlantic node, Sunburst would fail, and humanity would fall. Tom seemed to read Jack's thoughts through the screen. "I'm going in, Commander." No arguments. Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. "Vex ships approaching," Bill shouted. 3 attack vessels, directly overhead. On the screen, Tom looked up as dust fell from the ceiling. "They've found us. No time to argue. Mary knows how to complete the sequence." He removed his badge and handed it to Mary. "Tell my wife, tell her I'm sorry I'll miss dinner." The video feed cut out as another explosion rocked the Atlantic facility. "Get them back online," Jack ordered. For 10 agonizing minutes, they waited. Then Mary's face appeared, tears streaking her dust-covered cheeks. "Atlantic node stabilized," she reported, her voice steady despite her expression. Tom didn't make it. But he completed the adjustments before. Jack closed his eyes briefly. His sacrifice won't be in vain. At the UN, world leaders received updates on the escalating attacks. Cities were burning, millions evacuating. The Secretary General placed a call to Jack. "Commander, we cannot endure this much longer." "How much more time do you need?" 2 hours, ma'am. All nodes are operational, but synchronization requires precise timing. The Vex are demanding we broadcast our surrender in 1 hour. Jack's mind raced through options. Stall them. Tell them you're preparing the broadcast. Technical difficulties, anything. In orbit, General Drawn grew increasingly agitated as reports of the energy disturbances continued. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "How are they generating these energy patterns?" Krell studied the readings. "It appears to be coming from multiple locations simultaneously. The energy signature doesn't match any known weapon system. They are a primitive species." Drawn slammed his fist on the control panel. "They cannot possibly have technology we don't understand." "Nevertheless," Krell replied cautiously, "something is interfering with our systems." Drawn's eyes narrowed. "Begin the final attack sequence. No more demonstrations. Full assault on all targets." On Earth, Bill's console lit up with warnings. "Commander. The Vex fleet is repositioning. All ships moving into attack formation." Jack turned to Anna. "Time?" "Synchronization at 94%, she replied. "We need 40 more minutes." "We may not have 40 minutes, Jack said grimly. The main screen showed Vex ships moving into precise positions above Earth's major cities. Their weapon systems glowed with building energy. "They're powering up their main cannons," Bill reported. "Energy readings off the scale." The President's call came through. "Commander Stone, the Vex have terminated negotiations. They're beginning their attack. Is Sunburst ready?" Jack exchanged looks with Anna. "Not quite, sir. But we're out of options." He made the hardest decision of his career. "Anna, prepare for emergency activation. All nodes, stand by for premature synchronization." "Jack, the system could overload," Anna warned. "We could lose everything." "If we wait, we'll definitely lose everything," Jack replied. "This is our only shot." As Vex weapons prepared to fire, Anna's fingers flew across the control panel, initiating the emergency sequence. "All nodes responding," she reported. Synchronization protocols engaged. Around the world, the 7 sunburst nodes hummed with power, their energy signatures rising to levels that finally caught the full attention of the Vex fleet. Too late, General Drawn realized his mistake. General Drawn stood on the command deck of his flagship, watching with satisfaction as his fleet moved into final attack positions. Earth's major cities appeared as clusters of lights below, soon to be reduced to ashes. After countless conquests across the galaxy, this primitive world would be just another footnote in the expansion of the Vex dominion. "Begin the broadcast," Drawn ordered. "Let them witness their final moments." Every screen on Earth flickered to life, showing Drawn's stern face. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence before he spoke. "People of Earth, you have rejected our generous offer. Your leaders have chosen destruction instead of submission. Witness now the consequence of your pride." In the mountain facility, Jack watched the broadcast with grim determination. Anna's voice cut through the tension. "Synchronization at 97%. 98%, holding at 98%. The system is straining under the emergency protocol." "We need 100%, Jack said, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the console. Bill looked up from his station. "Vex weapons are charged. They're targeting everywhere," Jack finished. "I know." The President's voice came through, calm despite the circumstances. "Commander Stone, we're out of time." Jack made his decision. "Activate Sunburst at current synchronization. All nodes, full power now." Around the world, the 7 hidden facilities thrummed as the quantum resonators reached maximum output. Energy unlike anything humanity had ever wielded flowed through carefully designed channels, converging into a singular purpose. In orbit, Krell suddenly jerked to attention. General. Energy surge detected. Unprecedented levels. Drawn turned from the broadcast. From where? Everywhere. Multiple sources, creating some kind of field. On the Vex ships, warning alarms blared as strange energy patterns washed over their hulls. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, power systems began to flicker. What is happening? Drawn demanded as the lights on his command deck dimmed. Power systems failing. Krell reported, frantically working controls that no longer responded. The energy field is disrupting our power signatures. In the mountain facility, displays showed the sunburst field expanding outward from Earth, enveloping the Vex fleet in its invisible grip. It's working, Anna whispered, eyes wide as data flowed across her screen. The field is destabilizing their power systems exactly as projected. On screens around the world, humans watched in awe as the mighty Vex ships suddenly went dark. Their weapon systems powered down, engines failed, and the once threatening vessels became nothing more than massive, floating hulks. In just 42 seconds, the entire Vex fleet had been neutralized. General Drawn stared in disbelief as emergency lighting cast an eerie red glow across his command deck. Impossible, he breathed. They are primitive. We observed them. They use combustion engines and chemical rockets. They have no space fleet. No planetary defense system. Krell checked the few instruments still functioning. Life support on emergency power. Engines disabled. Weapons offline. Communications severely limited. How? Drawn demanded. How? On Earth, celebrations erupted as people realized the alien threat had somehow been neutralized. In the mountain facility, however, Jack's team remained focused. Sunburst field stable, Anna reported. All Vex ships contained within the effect radius. Jack opened a channel to the President. Mr. President, all enemy vessels have been neutralized. Their power systems are disabled. They pose no immediate threat. For the first time in days, the President smiled. Excellent work, Commander. What's the next step? The field will hold them in place. I recommend immediate boarding operations. We should secure their vessels before they can attempt repairs. Around the world, military forces scrambled into action. Specially trained teams boarded shuttles and rockets, prepared for the unprecedented mission of capturing alien spacecraft. The first boarding team reached General Drawn's flagship within hours. Armed soldiers moved cautiously through the darkened corridors, encountering minimal resistance from the confused and demoralized Vex crews. On the command deck, Drawn stood rigidly as humans entered, weapons raised. The proud general, who had conquered countless worlds, faced the unthinkable, capture by what he had dismissed as a primitive species. The team leader approached Drawn. General Drawn, by authority of Earth's United Defense Command, you and your forces are now prisoners of war. Drawn's 4 eyes narrowed. How? What technology did you use against us? The soldier smiled grimly. One you didn't look for. In the mountain facility, Jack watched the boarding operations with mixed emotions. They had won, but at terrible cost. Tom's sacrifice was just one of many that had made this victory possible. Anna approached, exhaustion evident on her face. It really worked, Jack. All those years of theory and testing, it actually worked. Jack nodded slowly. They never saw it coming. They looked at our rockets, our satellites, our conventional weapons, and decided we were primitive. Their mistake, Anna said quietly. Their mistake, Jack agreed. 1 week after the neutralization of the Vex fleet, Earth was still coming to terms with its new reality. 57 alien vessels hung motionless in orbit, their sleek designs now permanent fixtures in the night sky. Temporary military outposts had been established on each ship, with research teams working around the clock to understand the alien technology. In a secure conference room beneath the Pentagon, Jack Stone stood before the assembled world leaders, using a holographic display to explain what had happened. Project Sunburst was never designed as a weapon, he explained. It began as research into alternative energy sources, specifically, how to harness quantum field interactions. The Chinese premier leaned forward. Yet you turned it into the most powerful weapon in human history. Jack shook his head. Not exactly, sir. Sunburst doesn't damage or destroy. It simply disrupts. The Vex developed along a technological path that relies on a specific type of power transfer. Their entire civilization is built around it. Sunburst creates a field that makes that power transfer impossible within its radius. Like turning off a switch, the British Prime Minister observed. Exactly. Their ships are intact. Their weapons are undamaged. They simply cannot function while the field is active. The Russian president's eyes narrowed. And if they adapt? They will, Jack admitted. Eventually. But by then, we'll have incorporated their technology into our defenses. The playing field has been leveled. In a high-security detention center, General Drawn sat across from Mary Clark. The alien commander had lost his arrogance, replaced by genuine curiosity. You hid your true technological level, Drawn stated. Why? Mary's eyes were cold. She had not forgotten Tom's sacrifice. We didn't hide it. You assumed. You saw our rockets and satellites and decided we were primitive. You never considered that we might develop along a different path. Different, Drawn repeated. Yes. The Vex Dominion has conquered 1,000 worlds. All followed the same technological progression. Space travel, then energy weapons, then faster-than-light drives. You skipped steps. We didn't skip anything, Mary corrected. We took a different staircase. Across the globe, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. The Vex attacks had caused significant damage, but the psychological impact of victory far outweighed the destruction. For the first time in history, Earth stood truly united, bound by the shared experience of facing extinction and emerging triumphant. In orbit, Anna supervised the research teams examining the Vex flagship. Engineers and scientists worked carefully, documenting every aspect of the alien technology. It's remarkable, she told Jack during his inspection visit. Their propulsion systems, their life support, it's all centuries ahead of what we have. But their understanding of quantum field dynamics is almost non-existent. Jack nodded. Each civilization develops according to its needs and discoveries. They focused on expansion. We focused on defense. What happens now? Anna asked. With the prisoners? Before Jack could answer, Bill approached with an urgent report. Sir, we've detected signals from deep space. More Vex ships. Jack's expression remained calm. How long until they arrive? At their current speed, 3 months. Enough time to prepare, Jack said. And to decide what message we send to the stars. The decision came 2 days later. After lengthy debate, Earth's United Council voted to release General Drawn and a portion of his crew. Their mission, return to Vex space with a message. On the day of their departure, Jack stood in the hangar as Drawn prepared to board one of the smaller Vex vessels that had been restored to partial functionality. Why release me? Drawn asked. You know I will return with a larger fleet. Jack handed him a data crystal. This contains information about Earth. Our history, our cultures, our scientific achievements. And a warning. A threat? Drawn's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. An invitation, Jack corrected. To peaceful contact. But yes, also a warning. Earth is not defenseless. We are not primitive. We welcome peaceful exchange, but we will meet any aggression with equal force. Drawn studied Jack for a long moment. You are an unusual species. Had we known? Had you asked instead of assumed, Jack finished. Remember that lesson. As the Vex ship departed Earth orbit, Jack returned to the mountain facility. The control room had changed, now incorporating elements of Vex technology alongside human designs. A symbol of the new era. 6 months later, the first human vessels equipped with modified Vex drive systems ventured beyond the solar system. They carried scientists and diplomats, not soldiers. But they also carried sunburst generators, ready if needed. The galaxy now knew of Earth, and the species that had defeated the mighty Vex in seconds. Some feared these humans. Others sought alliance. All respected them. In his new office at the United Earth Space Command, Jack looked at the photo on his desk, the original Sunburst team, including Tom. Below it sat a simple plaque with the words that had become humanity's unofficial motto as they stepped onto the galactic stage. Never assume. Never underestimate. Never surrender.